Hi guys, it's Ankita. Welcome to another video. In this video, I'm going to talk about all of my favorite books that I read in 2024, and these are in no particular order. Well, except for the first one, I guess. This is like my favorite book of the year, and that is War and Peace by Leo Tolstoy. This was my first taste of Russian literature. I was always so scared of picking it up because I had heard that it's so difficult to follow the characters because they have multiple names. Let me tell you, this is a very easy book to follow. And yes, the list of characters is really long, but it is totally approachable. Don't let that put you off of reading this amazing epic. This is about the French-Russian Napoleonic War of the early 19th century, set in the early 19th century, and we follow these fictitious characters throughout this war, this period of war, and we see their lives change. There are characters in here that you will absolutely fall in love, some that you will detest. There are so many relatable characters, very realistic. Nothing seems like totally outrageous. The blend of war and these characters and their lives is done beautifully and it's absolutely perfect, very close to perfect. I experienced love, I experienced betrayal, grief, loss. There are these wandering souls looking for purpose in their life. Tolstoy depicts why and how young people are so drawn towards the battlefield, and you see how the difference between the approach to the first main battle that takes place in this book, and then the second battle. The difference is so remarkable in the characters. It is a really great time to read this book. I think this book will never be old because it just embodies how war are so unnecessary, and still we live in the time where there are still wars going on in the world. Very poignant read. I wonder what Tolstoy's views would have been if he was around World War I and World War II. I think some of his ideas in this I would have totally disagreed with. I think what I got from this book is that Tolstoy strongly disagreed with the narrative of the French-Russian War, which he thought was like the popular narrative. He thought was the Western, the European narrative, and he wanted to present the Russian narrative, the actual facts. So he talks about the unsung heroes in this. He talks about what actually happened. So you can feel his passion just emanating from all of his words. I can just go on and on about this, but yeah, this was my favorite read of the year. It took me almost a year to finish. Moving on, next one I have is In Memoriam by Alice Wynne, another war book. This is a historical fiction, a debut novel, which is absolutely unbelievable because the structure of this book, the way the story is told, is absolutely mind-blowing. It's nothing, there isn't a historical fiction that I've read set in such a remarkable format. Yeah, this is a story of two boys set during World War I, and the war, the battlefield, it truly tests their love for each other. The impacts of the war on these young minds it's captured so beautifully, a very tender love story. I absolutely loved it. Next one is The List of Suspicious Things by Jenny Godfrey. This one is another unhyped book, I think, of 2024. It's another debut novel. So very intriguing and moving, heartbreaking at the same time. It also gives you a little bit of hope. This is a story of a young girl who, for her own reasons, decides to catch a serial killer, the Yorkshire Ripper, who's at large and terrorizing her community. And so she decides to do something about it, and she's a little investigator in Nancy Drew, but really with so much depth and soul. She tries to make a list of the people in her town who seem suspicious to her. This is a great insight into how as humans in our communities, whenever something goes wrong, the first people we always are suspicious of are people who are different to us, people who look different, people who speak a different language or from a different culture. And as this young girl, she tries to go around, secretly investigating these people. She uncovers horrifying secrets in her own community, and it is such a moving, gripping story, very intriguing. I was hooked and I loved the narrative. It is told from a couple of points of views, but the main point of view is of this little girl. I think she's 11, 12, or 13. I don't exactly recall, but very young, and beautifully told story set in the late 70s, I think, in Yorkshire. The next one that I absolutely loved, and which is hardly ever spoken about, and I think it is just starting to get a little bit popular, and that is I Hope This Finds You Well by Natalie Sue. Absolutely love this. Another very moving story. We follow our protagonist who finds it really hard to connect with her co-workers, and for a very good reason. Her co-workers are very rude, annoying, and outright mean to her. And then, due to a technical glitch, our protagonist gets access to their private messages and emails. And instead of reporting this technical glitch, she tries to use it to her advantage to get a promotion. And she sounds absolutely horrible, doesn't she? But trust me, there's a backstory to this. It is at times funny, at times really moving, heartbreaking, gut-wrenching, but at the same time heartwarming book as we follow this protagonist through her journey. Natalie Sue totally makes us empathize with this horrible protagonist, and we cannot help but feel for her and fall in love with her. Would recommend this. This is like a office comedy with a lot of depth to it. The next one is The Eighth Life, another really beautiful historical fiction. Now, I am not a big fan of family sagas. They really terrify me, and I hardly ever read any. One of the reasons why I haven't read 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Yeah, I know I haven't read that because I've heard it's a family saga. It terrifies me. When I started reading this, I was totally hooked. A historical fiction. We follow multiple characters in the same family, I believe over a century, and it's a Georgian family. So we see their struggles during the Soviet era and the revolution. Oh my goodness, I was totally hooked onto this. I just wanted to know what happens next. I would recommend this, The Eighth Life. It's a chunky book, but so good. Talk about the next one, Cotillion by Georgette Heyer. There has not been one Georgette Heyer book that I have not enjoyed, but let me tell you, this is one that absolutely had me giggling and laughing out loud all throughout the book. This is such a silly book. We follow so many silly characters, but the message of this book is very beautiful, that it is more important to have someone who is kind and good-hearted than someone who is good-looking and dashing and smart. I love the messages, the subtle messages, subtle but strong messages that Georgette Heyer gave out in her books. Her female characters are full of personalities, strong personalities, but it's still fun, and I absolutely enjoyed this one. If you've never read a Georgette Heyer book, you might want to start with this one. Absolutely loved it. There are some other books that I want to mention, and that is First Love by Joyce Carol Oates. I absolutely love the writing in this book. The story, not as much, but absolutely love the writing, and I fell in love with the writing of this author. I ended up reading one more book by her this year, and I plan to read more next year. Next is, I also want to mention the Empire of the Wolf trilogy, which, if you love horror, fantasy, fiction, I would recommend this. It's such a strong plot. I love the point of view. Some of it might seem very odd to you at the beginning. Keep going, it gets better. The more I think about this, I loved the ending of the book. And a book that was cozy, lovely, and excellent to read was All Creatures Great and Small by James Herriot. I did a read along on my channel and I absolutely loved it. Every chapter in this book just keeps getting more and more entertaining. The best memoir that I've ever read. Enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it, right from start till very end. Let me know in the comments down below which was your favorite book of 2024. And thank you so much for watching this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and like this video, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take care. Bye bye.